To find the best Indian university. Now, I'm not here to talk about why that is or how unfair that might be. I'm certainly the first one to advocate the outstanding caliber of the best Indian universities, but the fact remains that American and UK universities have very strong global brands, and they have an awful lot of money as well. Harvard's university endowment is about $36 billion right now. Cambridge's is about $9 billion. That the government knows about. There's a lot more hidden. And this sort of dwarfs anything available in India. And what happens is that there end up being many more opportunities for scientific research at the best American universities. Johns Hopkins, for instance, has $2 billion it spends every single year on scientific research for undergraduates and graduate students, which is just sort of a world apart. So yes, global opportunities are attractive. They're reputation drivers for high schools. But my question is, what really is the nature of the opportunity, please? Pardon me. So, the facts are that many people think global education is for students who do not know what they want to study, who are maybe slightly lost. And this could not be further from the truth. This is the first myth I'd really like to bust. So global colleges say they want well-rounded candidates. That's somewhat of a myth. That's a bit of a myth. They want outstanding candidates. I agree there are certain aspects of international education and global opportunities that would lead one to conclude that there is more of a sense of intellectual freedom. Like you can choose your degree when you get there. You can, by and large, you get exposed to the liberal arts in these various core programs. And in fact, the admissions criteria, the way you get in, is quite holistic. It's not just one test score. It's your test scores, it's your grades, it's your extracurricular profile, it's your essays, and you have to do an interview as well. So it is a holistic process to get in, and you do have certain freedoms in global education institutes like in the UK and the US that you don't have in India. But, can we turn the page? But the fact is that people miss the point, and I've been in this field for 10 years, and I've seen this time and time again, that people seem to think American universities are where you go if you're not focused, if you don't have an idea of purpose. And this could not be further from the truth. The cornerstone of the American university education is the liberal arts, and this term gets thrown around a lot, and it gets misused so much that people don't have a clear idea of what the liberal arts is. The liberal arts is really the set of disciplines that develop your expression, your inquiry, and your engagement with various subjects. And so the example I always give my students is that when you're considering, say, the Indian independence, you don't think of it in terms of dates or places. You think of how it was written, who wrote it, for what reason, in what medium. Has that changed over time? And this doesn't expand your horizons. This gives you a deeper perspective into this event. It's not a history, it's a living history. And this is what liberal arts education does. There's a lot of reading required. There's an awful lot of writing required. Even if you're going to study engineering, at MIT, you will do philosophy and English and music and all these wonderful subjects. So really, the first myth I sort of definitively want to bust is, who is the right fit? Well, it's not for people who don't know what they want to study. It's for people who want to study several things. Or perhaps they want to combine different areas of study to create a richer educational experience. Case in point, at Harvard, you've got to take at least 32 classes. Only 12 of them are for your major, so you have 20 additional things. Almost 2/3 of your experience will be dealing with things that are not in your major topic. And so that's number one. That this is what people have to understand. This is what global education is all about. So, now the facts. The fact is that I think by the last count, there are about 200,000 Indian students studying abroad, either as graduates or undergraduates. There are many, many more graduate students. Okay, the USA is the destination of choice by far, followed by UK and the Antipodes. And frankly, I find this number a little shocking because I checked it last night. There are 17 million Indian students in Indian colleges and universities, 33,000 colleges, 600 universities, 17 million Indian students who have the ambition to pursue higher education. They have the support, they have the resources. So why is it that 1% are pursuing global opportunities? And that really is what keeps me up at night. What's with this tiny number? Next slide. Now, there's a lot of misconceptions about global universities. The fact is that there is a across-the-board lack of access. To put it bluntly, these things are extremely expensive. Average fees for an American 4-year degree, $32,000 per year. And that's actually slightly underweight. Really, for an international student at a private university, it's about $60,000 per year. That's 2 crore at the end of the degree. UK universities, a bit cheaper, $18,000 per year, but at the top end, it tops out with the same as America. And then compare that to your average Indian fees, which are literally 50 to 100 times cheaper. Okay, so number one thing, it's a lack of access in terms of the finances. There are certain myths. You might have certain unscrupulous people who promise the chance to get scholarships. That doesn't exist. That's not real. First off, the Ivy League colleges do not give scholarships. They don't call them scholarships, they call it financial aid. Second off, there are only 7 colleges in the whole country that give full and free financial aid to international students. Harvard, MIT, Princeton, Yale, Amherst, Stanford, and Dartmouth. And everything else either penalizes you because you apply for financial aid, or they don't give it in the first place. Like the UC system, the California system, it's not available for Indian students. You've got to pay the full freight. And frankly, the Great Recession caused so many budget shortages in the US that after 2009 it became much easier for international students to get in. A lot easier for Indian kids. Okay? So the takeaway, is it possible to get financial aid? Yeah, it's possible. Is it likely? No, it's extremely unlikely. You've got to be the best of the best. I see it happen, but these kids are really, they're really the very best in Delhi. And that's sadly no joke. Next slide. So it's lack of access. That's the first impediment. In answering the question, why is only 1% of people pursuing this opportunity? They can't afford it. Okay? Number 2, lack of information. They don't know what's out there. Now, the fact is that parents have unrealistic expectations that are either pitched way too high or way too low. Okay? They don't know what it takes to get in. Stanford has a 5% admissions rate. Okay? IITs have a 2% admissions rate. The best Indian business school has a 0.25% admissions rate. It's tough, but it's not impossible. That's sort of what I think. The fact is that people don't know what they're good and bad at. They don't know how they're weak and strong. If you have demonstrated excellence in art or music or sports, you can get into the best universities in the world. I've seen that happen many times. You don't have to be some kind of academic genius, though it helps. You don't have to have perfect test scores, though it helps. You just have to be able to show you are outstanding in one specific way. Okay, so why? Why do people not have the info? Why is there so much fuzzy thinking about global university, global education opportunities? And I've got to say that it's because the role of secondary schools is much lower than it could be. In America, where I did my schooling, secondary schools provide you guidance. They help you with your college list. They might give you a bit of advice in your essays. They might offer you a test prep program in school. And frankly, in India, that responsibility is largely abrogated to the private sector. And I've got to say, I'm not going to name any names, but I know for a fact there are many unscrupulous counselors and many unscrupulous agents that not only have conflicts of interest, but they have uncertain loyalties, and some of them actually take money from the colleges to direct students to apply to Tier 3 and Tier 4 places. Okay, they're selling their students down the river for a couple of $1,000. Frankly, I think there could be a much more significant role of schools in the application process, and this would have 2 benefits. Number one thing, there would be a chance for institutional memory to develop. A chance for there to become a collective wisdom where people can pass on where they went wrong and what they did right. Right now, it doesn't happen like that. People are doing it by themselves, they become expert in this process, and then they stop doing it, and that's all. And the second thing is that schools develop relationships with universities over time. So for instance, the Vassal Valley head girl will always get accepted to Columbia. That's just what happens. And I don't know why, but my guess is that Columbia knows the caliber of the school, the caliber of the students, and they're willing to place a bet on being a good kid. So, in my mind, the difficulties when you're thinking about opportunities for global education comes down to lack of money, lack of information, and lack of support. Okay? Please, turn the page. But, there's a bright side. Schools can do very simple things to smooth this path. I've seen this happen. Help schools do this. It is not complicated at all. Strategic investments in teacher training. And that doesn't mean anything complicated. It literally means you have expert math teachers, expert English teachers, have them learn the test and have them run a test prep program. We've seen this happen, and it's always had a happy outcome. Early diagnostic testing for your students. Find your best and most ambitious and brightest students. Give an across-the-board test when everyone is 15 years old. You can print it up online. It takes 3 hours. You find out who your best 5 people are, and you develop them. And you develop them over the course of 2 years, because it takes 2 years. You do a timeline. You help them with college choice. And at the end of the day, you give them a bit of support when they're building their profile. And all this information is available online. That's the best part. It's all public domain. There's no hidden knowledge. And of course, the schools could be, they have to do a bit of back-end admin support as well. So, I would say this. I'd like to talk about a case study we did. Actually, I call it 10 Sundays in Spring. Me and my partner, we got a contract from a school in Jaipur, the Narendra Modi School. It's outstanding. And we were given a very interesting mission. They said, do whatever it takes, get our SAT scores up, and help our best 5 get better placements. And so we sat and we thought, this could be really interesting. And so what they were willing to do is they were willing to take on a flexible teaching model. We came in on Sundays. We came in at 7 a.m., we left at 7 p.m. Okay? It was 1 Sunday a week for 10 weeks. They gave us a bit of back-end support. They had a dedicated resource who was giving us tests, helping grade them, things like that. He was on the ground during the week. The outcome was not only did we smash the school record for the best SAT score, not only are the top 3 now in a position to crack Stanford and Princeton, but we trained the teachers as well. They sat in on the batch. And then we talked to them about how we do what we do, and we gave them pointers on the test. So it was a simultaneous student batch and teacher training course. And what happened is the SAT scores improved by about a standard deviation, which is pretty usual with good training. We were able to develop and implement a pre-SAT program for grade 10 students. And we were able to help them put together a simple college advisory service using publicly available resources and tools like various websites and apps and things. And so now they have a lot more structure and focus. And this is the kind of thing that becomes built to last. So very small structural and strategic changes, when you're talking about your best students, can result in massive changes down the line. Now, I would say that there are some misconceptions. There are some mistakes people make. I've seen many mistakes people make. Number one thing, they have an idealized perspective. And that's kind of might be a Hollywood thing, but they think it's a social network effect. The story about the Facebook guy, they think everyone's going to go there and get rich. And the fact is, I went to Harvard, I knew Mark Zuckerberg, there's only one Mark Zuckerberg, okay? And the other problem we see is that people treat education like it's some kind of accessory, like it's a status symbol. And I'll be very honest with you, I really don't approve of that at all. Education is, and it's particularly a college education, it's a gift, it's a privilege, it's a chance to engage in the best kind of learning. And so we see people who think it's like just something trendy, okay? Obviously, parents have unrealistic expectations. As educators, we can all probably recognize that. There's a lack of awareness. There's a lack of the real costs and benefits. And then finally, I think it comes down to what they think the purpose of an undergraduate education is. It's not, I see it as a chance for something unique to flower, as a chance to develop your rational skills, your critical skills, and frankly, to express and indulge and engage and experience in this kind of very special intellectual freedom. Okay? Plus, it'll help you get a good job. The best universities have relatively good rates of job placement, even that the economy isn't that great. So, at the end of the day, you have a decision to make, I'd say. At the end of the day, you have a decision to make. If an opportunity knocks, and no one's there to hear it, is it still there? No, it's gone. Okay, global education isn't for everyone, not yet. It's just too expensive. However, I think there are tens of thousands of Indian students walking around right now who could file competitive applications to the UK and the US. The opportunity is there. They must be identified, they must be nurtured, and it comes down to schools to see that actually these are viable options. Okay, I want to bring education back to schools. I want to bring teaching back to the classroom. And I want to help schools develop relationships that are built to last with colleges. So thanks very much. Sorry to inflict another PowerPoint presentation on you. Much obliged. Thank you.